Hello, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Mandana, and today we have a very special guest, Bryn. Bryn goes by Grad Student Life on TikTok and is an influencer and future doctor with over 70K followers on TikTok. Welcome, Bryn. We're so happy to have you here today. First, please tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to becoming a TikTok influencer. What inspired you to start documenting your process of applying to med school and sharing your day-to-day activities?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. So just a little backstory on me. I did my undergrad at UBC and then my master's at Western, and I've been applying to med in Canada the past few cycles. And then this cycle I also applied to a few US MD schools, and I was super fortunate to get accepted to one so far. And I would say I first started posting MCAT study videos just because I thought it was a fun way to kind of stay motivated and also connect with other students writing it. And then from there, during my master's, I kind of just continued to share the process applying to medical school. And I shared, when I didn't get accepted the first time or when I wasn't kind of happy with my MCAT score. And that's kind of how my account, I would say, took off, was just by sharing that. And from there, I also started sharing videos that people kind of asked me about, I thought would be helpful in terms of how I used my iPad to study or how I gained research experience. And then I also did kind of day in the life while I was in grad school. And from there, I've just kind of continued to share what I've learned in the process of applying to med in Canada and now the US as well. And also just kind of fun videos in terms of what I'm up to, kind of get ready with me's and that kind of content. But I would say I first kind of started by posting MCAT study videos, which was now over 3 years ago, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's what really helps you connect with your followers, right? Because you're keeping it real. You're not just showing the happy perfect life, but you're showing them really everything that actually goes on behind the scenes. And so a similar question here: how has sharing your experiences on TikTok impacted your journey through the medical school application process, and have there been any unexpected challenges or rewards?
Yeah, there have for sure been so many amazing rewards just from sharing my journey. First one being that I've been able to connect with so many amazing med students at the schools that I've interviewed at, just in terms of when I shared that I was interviewing there, they reached out to me and I was able to get a lot of advice and just mentorship. Even applying to the US, I had a lot of guidance from a few med students and a resident, which was, I wouldn't have had that if I hadn't, shared what I was doing or where I was applying. So I've had a lot of great mentorship just by sharing that. I've also, from kind of building the community that I have, I've had so many amazing leadership opportunities from speaking at various universities. I guest lectured at Western. I've had so many amazing opportunities just to even connect with other pre-med students and hear from them their journeys and how I've maybe helped them just by sharing what I've gone through. Has been really rewarding. And I've also put this on all my med applications in terms of a leadership entry. So overall, there's just honestly been a lot of amazing opportunities I've had from this, as well as by posting about the MCAT and interview prep. I've been able to work with a lot of educational organizations through my TikTok platform, and then I've gained resources for free, which has been nice in terms of saving money because applying to med school is already so expensive. I would say the few challenges I have had has just been when you are vulnerable and you share moments you're not proud of, like not doing well in the MCAT, people are gonna come for you, which isn't the nicest. But I think just because I have such an amazing community, even if I get a few hate comments, there's gonna be 100 positive ones that outweigh that. So overall, sharing my experiences has been an overall really rewarding experience.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely see that your audience appreciates you sharing your process. And following that, what do you hope your audience gains from following your journey on TikTok, particularly those who may also be aspiring medical students or interested in the medical field?
I hope my platform just continues to serve as a supportive outlet for students and someone to look to for advice or mentorship. And as I go through the process of med school and then residency, I want to continue sharing that and sharing what I learned, because I know that's something that I appreciate when I follow med students, just to kind of see what that process looks like, to have an idea of what to expect. I also just want to continue to also serve as a supportive outlet in the sense that even if you're not accepted your first try, you're not alone in this process. Getting into medical school is so competitive, and even doing well in the MCAT, I guess my success story hopefully will inspire others to not give up and to continue to be resilient and pursue their career goals. Because if I had stopped at my fourth MCAT attempt, I wouldn't have done as well, and maybe I wouldn't have gone to med school. So just to continue I think it can be really isolating at times, especially if you don't know others applying. So just to kind of be there as someone to look to for advice or mentorship.
Definitely. And beyond documenting your medical school journey, I think what's really cool is that you also share glimpses of your day to day life. And how do you decide which aspects of your life to share with your audience?
Yeah, so as much as applying to med school is a huge part of my life, there's so many other aspects as well. Like, for example, I love shopping and skincare and makeup and traveling. So that's why I also like to share those aspects as well because like it doesn't have to be your life doesn't have to be strictly med and studying. I think it's important to have hobbies as well and do things that you enjoy. And I also just enjoy sharing that content. Like I love talking about school, but I also love talking about skincare. So I like having the balance of the two. I definitely think in terms of sharing personal stuff, I definitely have to keep it to a degree of professionalism just because I am applying to med school and then I'm applying to residency and I'm always going to kind of be in that professional setting. So I guess I do have some boundaries there in terms of sharing my personal life, or even this year I didn't share where I was getting interviews. I just shared that I was getting them and then I got in. But I think overall, like I definitely enjoy making content about my life that's not strictly academic. So that's kind of what I want to continue doing and just overall sharing kind of my life in terms of med school, but also what I do outside of school.
For sure. For me, I really enjoyed your videos where you were documenting like the things you were buying for Italy and then you went to Italy and even you were like talking about the Botox you got. Like I found that really interesting personally.
Yeah, I also think like 90% of my audience is female and also similar age to me. So I guess that kind of content's also relatable and I enjoy watching that kind of content from other creators, so I like making it as well.
Yeah. And it also like kind of opens up the audience also, not only people that are interested in medicine, so that's also a really good thing. So my next question was, has your experiences as a TikTok influencer changed or influenced your perspective on the medical field or your approach to your studies?
Yeah, I think it's definitely highlighted the impact that social media can have in the sense of knowledge translation and educating others and also building a community. I know I've learned a lot from TikTok and hopefully people have learned stuff from my content as well, and that's something I want to continue sharing throughout med school and residency and during my career is knowledge that I learned so it can be an educational resource. But also I think social media is also really important in the sense of educating the community using lay language to do so, and we actually talked about this in one of my master's courses because I think it's really important to have scholars and educators on social media that can then educate the population because people aren't going to read scientific journals about various things. They might not have the access to it or the scientific literacy. So I think it's really important to have people on social media teaching others, and that's something I also want to continue doing. And actually the lecture that I guest lectured at Western was for my graduate program director, and it was on her seminar on social media, and I used that to teach students how you could use social media to benefit your career, your education, connect with others. It can be great, even just with networking. So overall, I think it's definitely highlighted the importance of how social media can be used to benefit like you, but also your community in terms of education.
Yes, exactly. And I think things are changing, especially with our generation. Like TikTok is a huge resource, right? The amount of times we learn things on that platform, it's actually crazy. And I think it's really important that we start having medical students do that kind of stuff.
I often cite TikTok in our discussions in school.
Yeah, no, definitely. And just as an example, like if you had a doctor who published a study but also shared the findings like on TikTok or any other social media platform using the language that the general public could understand, they're going to be able to reach such a larger like audience through social media and also just like reach people that wouldn't be reading scientific journals. So I think it can be a huge educational tool, and that's something I want to continue to use like when I'm now publishing studies like in the future and doing research, because I think it can definitely be a really great resource.
Yeah, exactly.
Our next question is, what strategies or tactics have you found most effective in growing your TikTok audience, especially considering that the platform has many trends?
Honestly, I feel like I don't really do that many trends because most of my videos are me just talking to the camera, giving life updates or talking about med school or something like that. There are sometimes when I do trends, if it's like if I'm on the app and I'm seeing it over and over and I think it'd be really fun and I could kind of relate it to like med school or the MCAT, then I'll do it. But I would say for the most part, it's me just more so talking to the camera. And I feel like the only really times where I've had huge jumps in followings has been when, for example, I'm saying like my MCAT score is coming up tomorrow, or last year I was like, I find out if I get into McGill tomorrow, some people come back. But otherwise, my following count has honestly been pretty stagnant. Like I haven't gained that many followers in the last year. But I think what's important is that because my audience is so engaging and I have such a great community, like that's more important than the number, because I do have a lot of engagement on my videos, which is really great. But hopefully once I start med school and I kind of start that kind of content, I'll also reach a larger audience. Even doing more lifestyle content, like I know a lot of my followers aren't specifically pre-med, so that's also why I like doing other type of content as well. But yeah, I feel like I don't do trends that often. It's more so me just talking to the camera.
And regarding collaborations with other TikTok creators or brands, what have those experiences been like, and how do you approach those collaboration opportunities?
A lot of my collabs have been within the educational space, so like MCAT companies or just in general pre-med like consulting companies. I've also had some like clothing or skincare ones as well because I post that kind of content. But it's definitely something that's difficult to navigate, especially because there's not a lot of public info on it, especially in terms of like how much you should charge or what other creators are charging. And before I just had my email in my bio and I would get a lot of emails, but it honestly would really overwhelm me because I'd get so many emails and a lot of them like weren't anything special. They just want to send you things. So when I moved to Toronto, that's something I actually wanted to look into in terms of getting a manager just so they coordinate everything for me. And that's what I've done since I moved here, and it's been really helpful in terms of them like reaching out to brands, but also when brands reach out to me, responding. But for the most part, I feel like brands just get my email from my bio and that's how they contact me. And now I have a manager to kind of coordinate that in terms of pricing and also videos and all that kind of stuff.
And he does a good job. He's very quick. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like before there would just be hundreds of emails in my inbox, and then I just wouldn't even go there and look at them, and then I'd miss like any really good emails. So it's nice having someone to kind of organize all that for you so you don't have to worry about it. Especially right now, I feel like I have the most free time that I'm ever going to have before med school, so I really want to take advantage of that and actually start like making more content and doing that while I like have the free time and can do it.
Mm-hmm. And we actually had, I mean, we could cut this out, but like we actually had a personal question. We were wondering, how'd you select your manager? Like, is it someone you know, or like does a brand, like not a brand, but does a company reach out to you? Yeah. Like, how does that work?
I had a few agencies reach out to me like over the months, like a few last summer, but I didn't end up answering any of them until I moved to Toronto. So then I answered them and I met with them. And then I also had a friend who like has a management team and kind of has more experience with that, and she recommended 2 Toronto like based agencies, and I met with them and I just kind of figured out like by speaking with them which would work best for me, and ended up going with the one I went with just because it is a smaller company, so that way I felt like there was more like one-on-one, and also just prioritizing the content because they're more invested since it is like they're the owner of the company. There's not like a bunch of people working for them. That's kind of how I decided it. So I ended up like I reached out to him first, but I had some that reached out to me as well.
Well, he's doing a great job.
He's really good.
Shout out to Jacob. And so the following question would be, can you share any memorable interactions or stories from your audience that have particularly resonated with you or influenced your content?
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, I think there's been so many messages from people who are just like the sweetest people who just let me know how like before they were going to give up and now they're not, and just like having me as someone to look to has been really inspiring to them. And I think those messages are so sweet. And also meeting students in person. Like recently I was in Ottawa and I spoke at a conference and I got to meet a lot of students in person, and kind of just hearing from them firsthand how I've helped them has been really amazing. And last year I went to Windsor and kind of had the same experience. So overall there's been just a lot of positive feedback that I've received from students, and I think it's also made me like want to share vulnerable moments because I realize how it's helping others, and that's why I've continued to kind of do that. And it's nice to kind of create this supportive community for other students so they know that they're not alone. But I would say that's kind of the number one thing that stood out, is just being able to help students, which has been really rewarding.
Yeah, that's definitely like it shows like your impact, and and I think it's really important because like on average, the average medical student in Canada gets in after like 3 cycles or something like that. But I feel like those stories, sometimes we don't hear about them a lot. So it's definitely nice to have you like a face to, you know, the average student, like the journey that goes in, the hard work that goes in. It's not like an easy process.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like on social media, we often only see the success stories, which can be really isolating, especially if you don't know anyone else who's gone through this process. And I know before moving to Ontario for my master's, like I only really had one friend in BC who wanted to do med. He got in his first try. But then during my master's, like a lot of students in my cohort were in a similar position to me in terms of taking multiple attempts and then maybe going abroad to Ireland for med school. So having that was really nice to know that I'm not alone and kind of having a network of students to ask questions to or speak with. So that's also kind of why I wanted to share that on my platform for students who maybe don't have that support or kind of just that they don't feel alone, because it is really difficult to get into med school. And I think also people often write the MCAT 2 to 3 times as well, but 5 times is a bit more uncommon. But I think that just goes to show that you can improve. Like I didn't expect to get 513 in my most recent attempt, so it is possible. So hopefully people kind of, I guess, if they see that, it inspires them to maybe keep trying and apply again. Because I think the most I felt defeated was probably last cycle when I got rejected from UBC and McGill, just because at that point I didn't know like what I could do and how many times do I give Canada to apply, because some people will apply 6 years in a row, others will get in on their first try, and it's definitely a really difficult space to navigate, especially considering, do you go abroad, do you stay, especially now that I am 25, kind of figuring out what I want to do, especially considering like residency. But I think that sharing that was really helpful because I was able to get advice from people who were in similar circumstances before. So then me also sharing my advice and my experience will hopefully help others who aren't sharing that. So that way they can also benefit from the knowledge that I accumulate from these experiences.
Yeah, but the age thing is definitely something to consider. But like in our class we have people that are like 32, 38. So
yeah,
like I would say you could apply like any age.
Exactly. And the second wave of people, because we did pre-med, but the second wave of people who got in first year, like most of them are 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the average accepted age in Canada now is between 23 and 25. I also think because I didn't get in on my first try, I gained so many amazing experiences I wouldn't have had otherwise, like during my master's and after my master's, that have shaped who I am and will make me a better physician, and overall I think help me in med school and in residency and during my career. Like I think I'm a lot better prepared now than I was in undergrad. So much of what was on my application this past cycle I did not have in undergrad, so I think that's just really important, if you don't get on your first try, just to continue working on your application and gain amazing experiences that you think will be rewarding for you right now but also during your career.
Definitely.
Yeah. And looking ahead, what are your aspirations for both your TikTok platform and your journey through medical school? How do you plan to continue sharing your experiences with your audience?
Yeah, I think I just want to continue kind of sharing my day-to-day and also what I learn like throughout now med school, interviewing for residency, if I'm trying to match back to Canada, or if I do stay in Canada, just overall that whole process and what I learned, so I can continue to kind of serve as a guide for other students who are going through this in the future. And I also want to continue sharing more lifestyle content because I enjoy making that as well. But I think definitely during the next year when I do have more free time, I kind of want to prioritize social media and content creation. But then also during med school, I definitely will probably go into more educational content just in terms of sharing what I learned or what I think is really fascinating.
And lastly, what tips or advice would you offer to others who are applying to medical school or who simply want to grow a platform on TikTok?
I think for med school, if you don't get in your first try, like don't give up. Continue working on your application. You can get a master's. Just continue gaining experiences that you think will help you both like getting into med school but also afterwards, and knowing that you're not alone in this. I also, if you have anyone who's also going through this, I thought it was really helpful having friends I could speak to or talk to about the entire process, because there's so many moving pieces and unknown variables that having someone to talk to was really nice. And there are a lot of Discord channels that you can even just join and ask questions to, because I think like that is really helpful in the entire process. And then for TikTok, I would say make content that you enjoy posting, you have fun with. That way you're more likely to post and it's not going to feel like you're working. For example, I love making Get Ready With Me's. I also love talking about school. And I think when you're really excited about the content that comes across to your audience, I also think for you to actually like build a following, it's important that you're adding value to them so they have a reason to go to your account and watch your video. So whatever you are posting, make sure you're kind of adding value in that sense. I think it's also important to be authentic and build a relationship with your followers. That way you're kind of getting that engagement and building that community, and then hopefully just with time and consistency, it eventually pays off.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's really cool because you're building a community And I also think that it really resonates, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can kind of tell when people are being fake or they don't like what they're doing. It kind of shows. And then you see someone that really likes what they're doing, and it makes you want to follow them and follow along their journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think some of my original followers have been with me since my like second MCAT attempt, started my master's 2021, which is just crazy that they've been there like through all of the up and downs for so long and kind of been with me through this whole process. And honestly, I've really enjoyed sharing it. I've been able to connect with so many amazing students from this as well. So overall, I think I've had a really positive experience, and I hope to just continue sharing my journey.
Yeah. I think I've been following you since 2021.
Alrighty.
But yeah, anyways, thank you so much, Bryn, for being here and sharing your story with us. And for the listeners, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you all in our next episode of Amantana. Take care.